Hello, Chef Val here. Today I'm going to teach you how to make kale chips. They're simple, they're easy, they're crunchy, and they're fantastic for you. Hi, I'm Chef Val, and I have been teaching healthy cooking classes since 1997. My background is in whole foods, vegan foods, and based in macrobiotic principles. So I love to teach you how you can incorporate these healthy whole foods from Mother Earth, such as kale, into your everyday lifestyle. At any time, if you want to find out more information about all that I have to offer and look at the 5 cookbooks that I have written, you can go to macroval.com. So kale chips, you see them in the store, maybe you've had them before. Have you ever tried making them? Well, they're really easy to make. And my kale chips have 3 ingredients. That's it. Not complicated, not hard. You don't need to put a lot of stuff on them. It's so easy to do. First thing you're going to do is you're going to go to the store and you're going to buy some kale. So what should you look for in the store? You want the kale to be beautiful, green. You want it to be fresh, crisp, not wilty. All right. I always recommend you get organic vegetables because you don't want them sprayed with chemicals, and the chemicals have like this weird bitter chemical taste, and you don't want that. But the one thing I want you to look for too in the kale, especially when you buy organic, because sometimes organic produce has bugs on it, but that's a good thing because if the bugs can eat off of it and live, then you can eat off of it and live. But sometimes along the stem right in here, there's a lot of bugs. And so when you're at the store, just kind of move the green apart and just kind of check that out. There could be a little bit, but and that's fine. You can bring them home and wash it. You don't want a lot of bugs going on in there. So you bring the kale home and you wash the kale really good. I usually put the kale in my kitchen sink. Okay. I'm not one that puts it in a pan of water and lets it soak in the water. I let the water run, and then I take it, and especially remember that stem I told you about? That stem is where all the dirt's going to be. So I let the water run on the stem. I run my hands up and down the stem to make sure that there's no bugs or anything in it. Now, another way that some people wash it is they fill the sink with water and they put the kale in there and they swish it around. I find running the water on it just is a better way to clean it, but either way is an option. You just want to make sure that you clean the kale very well. You want to make sure there's no dirt, no bugs. All right. And now we got the kale on the cutting board, and you're going to want to cut the green leafy part from the stem because when you make kale chips, you can't use the stem. So I do that by just cutting the green leafy part away from the stem, like so. Now, if you have any bits or pieces, you can use those as long as it's the leafy part. And then the stem, I put in a bowl over there, and I actually use the stem later, but for right now, we're going to just work on the leafy part. And I'm going to cut it into small pieces, but not too small because the kale shrinks as it cooks. So I've got little pieces like this. The kale kind of curls. And that's fine. You know, when you put it on the cookie sheet, you're going to spread it out. And like I said, when it bakes, it kind of shrinks. You get like different sizes of the kale chip, and that's fine. What you eventually want at the end, when the kale chips are done, is you want a crunchy snack. Now, I like putting garlic salt on my kale chips, so I like a crunchy, salty snack. Some people just want garlic powder on there because they don't want the excess salt, and that's perfectly fine too. But that's it. You don't need a lot of fancy seasonings or anything like that. But the one thing you do need is some oil. So I use organic olive oil, the healthiest oil that you can put into your body, mono unsaturated heart healthy oil. So when I first was making kale chips, and I was making a lot of them, I used to drizzle the olive oil on there, and you can do that. But now I've come across this handy dandy sprayer bottle that makes covering the kale with the olive oil so much easier. So I start just by spraying the kale with some olive oil, right? I'm going to lift it up a few times and just let the olive oil spray into the kale like so. And then I'm going to take the best kitchen tools that you have, your hands, and I'm going to just kind of massage the olive oil into the kale. What I'm doing is I'm just covering all the kale with olive oil because that's going to make it crispy in the oven, is the olive oil. And it doesn't take long. You don't have to do it for a long time. There, I'm done. That's it. Get yourself a baking sheet and you put the kale on there. You want to put it on there like a single layer. Don't pile it up. If you pile it up, then the kale is not going to get crispy. It's going to get soggy. So don't overpile the kale on the cookie sheet. You just want a single layer like so. Now, kale is so fantastic for you. We're super high in iron. We're super high in calcium. Very high in protein. So this is a great place for you to get protein. Kale is in the cabbage family. And all vegetables that are in the cabbage family have been studied to show that they have their anti-cancer properties. In fact, kale may protect you from colon cancer. And of course, did I mention exceptionally high in vitamin C? I think I did. That's what most vegetables in the cabbage family are known for, like cabbage and collards and kale. They're really high in vitamin C. They also contain nutraceuticals, which may protect your eye from macular degeneration. Very important. The kale contains your chlorophyll. Chlorophyll helps cleanse toxins out of your system and also can cleanse heavy metals out of your system. That's the chlorophyll because of the cleansing property that it contains. So kale is naturally bitter to the taste, and anything that is bitter to the taste feeds and nurtures your brain and your heart. So that's your kale. Now again, we've got olive oil on there, but we need some type of seasoning to make it taste good. Now, you could use just some good quality sea salt. Love that. I like garlic salt because I like that little hint of garlic on the kale. Or if you're cutting down on your salt intake, you could just use garlic powder. Other kale chips, that are in the stores, they have like all these different flavorings on it. It's not necessary. It's too much. I always like simplicity, simplicity, simplicity. So let's just go easy, easy, easy. I put the oven on 350 degrees. I put the kale in there. How long does it take? Well, it takes approximately 10 minutes. It could take like 12 minutes, but around 10 minutes. It's crispy. I'll show you what it looks like when it's done. What are you going to do with the kale stems? Here's what I do. I take the kale stems and I chop them up and I put them in the food processor. And then I puree them and I have like minced kale. And then I put it in containers. And if I'm cooking that week, I'll use that minced kale in soups, stir fries, casseroles, whatever I'm making. You just put a little bit in here or there. Or you can freeze that minced kale. And then you always have minced, frozen, organic kale in your freezer for the next time you make a pot of soup. You could throw some in. The next time you do a stir fry, you could put some in there. So kale, this is a great way to get kale into your diet because we all know leafy greens are so great for us. But sometimes we're at a loss, like, well, how are we going to put it into our diet? So by mincing up the stems, you have an excellent way of putting it in your food. And by creating the kale chips, you have this awesome snack, right? All right, so let's take a few minute break here. I'm going to bake these kale chips and then I'm going to show you what they look like.